presentation, please visit bit.ly/help and care. There's a capital H in help, a capital A in and, a capital C in care. There is also a QR code on this slide. Again, that website is http://bit.ly/capital H E L P capital A and D capital C ARE. Help and care. Welcome to today's presentation. For an accessible version of the PowerPoints used during today's presentation, please visit bit.ly/help and care. There's a capital H in help, a capital A in and, a capital C in care. There is also a QR code on this slide. Again, that website is http://bit.ly/capital H E L P capital A and D capital C ARE. Help and care. Welcome to today's presentation.
Hi, Greg.
Hey, Don.
Hey, I was wondering, is there a way that I could maximize my viewing um, in this conference that it's something that I can adjust or not see so many names and stuff?
So we recommend changing two settings for your Zoom meetings. The first is hide non-video participants, And the second is change your view to gallery view side by side.
Okay. How do I do that?
So to hide non-video participants, you're going to take your mouse into the upper left-hand corner where you see a green shield with a checkbox. If you're having trouble finding it, you can also hit the Alt key to pull that up.
So I found this box and now I left click on it. Okay. And it brings up the name of the meeting and all that information. What do I do now?
So the meeting information is open. Now you want to find the gear icon, which is your settings.
Oh, over on the upper right-hand corner. Okay, I click on that. And then my settings box comes up. Where do I go from here?
Hide non-video participants is a video setting. So find video.
Video.
And then this one's a little bit hidden. It's down at the bottom.
Oh, how do I get there?
You have to find the light gray scroll bar and scroll down.
Oh, wow. That's a tiny little thing on the right-hand side. So I scroll down, and what do I click?
Now you're going to find the box that says hide non-video participants.
Okay. And then I just click out of here. And, oh, okay. I see that you're the only person here. Okay. My name's disappeared. So it really cleans up the screen a little. Now, what if I wanted to see a bigger you, like if you were presenting, and see the PowerPoint or handout at the same time?
So we can change that, and you can adjust that pretty easily by changing your view to gallery view side by side.
Okay.
In your upper right corner,
okay,
just the opposite of where you were,
right,
you will find a view tab.
Okay, I click that. Oh, okay, and it gives me some choices. Standard, side-by-side speaker, and side-by-side gallery. Oh, sorry, I accidentally clicked on side-by-side gallery. And I see that you're a little bigger, but how can I make you even more bigger?
All right, perfect question. In the area in between what is being shown on the left, your document, and the video on the right, there you'll find a little slider there.
And when I scroll over it, a line appears up and down the screen. That's pretty cool. Okay, so I just do what?
Click on it and click and drag in either direction to make either side bigger.
Oh, I just made a really big U. And I made a slightly smaller U so that I could read what's on the screen. So it gives me the ability of having a lot of adjustment and control over my own video. Well, that's awesome. I learned a lot from this, and thanks.
Cheers, everybody. Have a good conference.
Hello, and welcome to Taking Care of Ourselves, Helping Ourselves so we can help others, which will be hosted by Billy Brookshire. I'm so glad that you are joining us today. My name is Holly Russell, and I'm the current president of Penn AER. This session is part of the Penn AER Leadership Series, Taking Charge, Restore, Refresh, Renew. As the leadership team was working on this series, we wanted to focus on moving past the challenges of 2020 and shift our focus to recharging, refreshing, and renewing ourselves professionally and personally. In today's session, Billy Brookshire will help us to focus on learning to make space in your life just to be, to identify self-nurturing activities, and to make use of comfortable minutes. Before we get started, I would like to give you some housekeeping notes to help you navigate through today's session. This session will be recorded and you can watch it at a later time. A closing code will be given for today's session. There is no opening code. I would like to invite you to an open mic session after the presentation has concluded. An email will be sent to you after today's session. The email will provide you with a Dropbox link for your resource kit. The email will also explain how to request a certificate of attendance. A link to the evaluation for today's session will also be provided. Please help us out and complete the survey. We really want these sessions to benefit you, and we take the information in the survey seriously to help us improve our leadership events. Here are some notes about watching and participating in this session. When Billy begins to present with his slideshow, remember that you can put your cursor on the horizontal line between Billy and the slides and adjust it to the left or to the right to make the PowerPoint or Billy larger or smaller to adjust the size. We will be using the chat feature today, so feel free to put any questions and comments in the chat box. Billy will be taking questions throughout the presentation and someone will be monitoring the chat box. Some notes to unmute yourself. On the computer, use Alt-A to unmute. On a landline phone, press hide and then the mute button in the top left corner. On an iPhone or Android app, use the mute button in the lower left corner. With an iPad, use the mute button in the upper right corner toward the middle of the screen. At this time, I would like to invite Brenda Egan, who is part of the Penn AER Board of Directors and the leadership team, to introduce Billy Brookshire.
Thanks, Holly. Welcome, everyone. At this time, I would like to introduce you to Billy and tell you a little bit more about him. But first, let me tell you that the Penn AER leadership team and the board of directors is thrilled and delighted to have Billy Brookshire with us this afternoon. And even more excited that he is on the mend. You may recall that he was scheduled to present earlier this year, but needed to take some time to take care of himself. Guess it's true what they say, you can't keep a good man down. Let me tell you a little bit about Billy. He is a past president of AER's International Board. He has over 40 years of experience in rehabilitation and training and a reputation to match. He's retired from the Texas Division for Blind Services, where he served as blindness training and development specialist for 30 years. He is an award-winning author of the book, Loving Me, A Guide to Creating and Presenting Workshops on Self-Esteem. Billy has continued his passion of working with people through his private practice as a consultant and presenter of his uniquely animated workshops throughout the United States and Canada. He serves on several vision field related boards and remains a long-term member of AER's History and Memorial Committee, probably because Mary Nell co-chairs that committee, and we all know what happens when she gets a hold of you. Sorry, Mary Nell. He's a native son of the Lone Star State. Billy grew up on a farm in Central Texas and has lived in Austin since 1977. In addition to his professional expertise, he adds to Austin's local color as an expert sightseeing guide and loves showing visitors the rich culture and beauty of the city. I was fortunate to tour Austin with Billy, along with a car full of friends from Austin and Mary Nell, about a year and a half ago. And I guarantee you it was one of the best tours I have ever been on. We laughed and had the very best time and actually learned a few things along the way. We might have been able to fit another couple people in the car, except Marjorie Wood. Some of you probably know Marjorie. She had a couple layers of clothing on because it was a little chilly that day. That's a story for another day. But anyhow, we had the best time. Thanks, Billy, for that. Billy's awards include the Robert M. Lambert Award for Outstanding Lifetime Achievement in Service to People Who are Blind and Visually Impaired from AER's Psychosocial Division in 2008. The Virgil Zickel Award for Excellence in Product Development from the American Printing House for the Blind in 2003. The Aubrey Boyd Tips Memorial Award from Texas Association for Education and Rehabilitation in 1999. The Sammy K. Rankin Outstanding Member Award from Texas AER in 1995. The Distinguished Service Award in Rehabilitation from South Central Region of AER in 1993, the Arkansas Traveler in 91, and Admiral of the Texas Navy in 1986. A pretty impressive career, wouldn't you agree? I know you will be restored, refreshed, and renewed after listening to Billy's thoughts on taking care of ourselves, helping us so we can help others. So sit back and get ready to savor the best 90 minutes of your day. Billy, they're all yours.
Ah, holy cow. If I only knew what I was doing, Brenda. Thank you. Thank you very much. You make me sound a whole lot better than I really am. And I'm so glad I came to this. I'm dying to hear this speaker. Just want to give a quick shout out, you guys, to the folks behind the scenes here that you don't see, who do all this good stuff. You got a chance, if you came in early enough, to see Greg doing the show, to tell you a little bit how to use the tools better. But behind the scenes, also Doug and Becky, and they're doing great things back there without you even knowing it. And also to the Pendel board and all those with Pendel who asked me to do this. Thank you very much. I am here. And finally, to Mary Nell, who Brenda mentioned. Mary Nell is one of those folks who always keeps us moving and grooving and always seems to be on top of everything. So without further ado, there's something I usually do. We're going to visit with you here a little bit about how to take care of yourself. And but before I begin, there's something I want to do. My sis always wanted to attend one of my presentations and has never been able to do it. And so I made a deal with her. If she would write a letter, that I would read that letter to the group, and that'd make her feel kind of like she was here. So I hope you guys are okay with this. Let me get Sis's letter here. Okay. All right. Dear Billy, I'm writing this letter real slow because I know you can't read fast. We don't live where we did when you left home. Bubba read in the paper that most accidents happen within home, so we moved. I won't be able to send you the address because the last family that lived here took the numbers for their next house, so they wouldn't have to change their address. Wish I'd thought of that. This new place is real nice. It even has a washing machine. I'm not sure it works so well, though. Last week, I put a load of clothes in and pulled the chain. We haven't seen them since. The weather ain't bad, though. It only rained twice last week. The first time for 3 days and the second time for 4 days. Oh, about that coat you wanted me to send? Bubba said it'd be too heavy to send in the mail with them buttons on it. So we cut them off and stuffed them in the pockets. Speaking of Bubba, he locked the keys in the car yesterday, and I was getting real worried because it took him 2 hours to get out. Oh, there's some really good news. Our sister Belbaloo had her baby this morning, but I haven't found his yet, so I don't know if you're an aunt or an uncle. And I got to tell you about Uncle Bobby Ray. He fell in a beer vat at the Lone Star Brewery down in San Antonio last week. Some men tried to pull him out, but he fought them off and drowned. We had him cremated. He burned for about 3 days. And I've got some real sad news. 3 of your friends went off the Leon River Bridge in a pickup truck. Butch was driving. He rolled down the window and swam to safety. But Spin and Scooter were in the back. They drowned because they couldn't get the tailgate down. Well, that's all the news I got this time. Nothing much happening here. Love, Sis. P.S. I was going to send you some money, but I already sealed the envelope before I thought of it. That's my sis. Of course, you probably already figured out Sis didn't write that, but she might have. She might have. So, Sis, wherever you are, I hope you heard that. So let's get on to why it is we're here, folks. Let's talk a little bit about nurturing and the nature of nurturing. I'm going to give you a kind of a textbook definition. And that's that nurturing is taking care of the needs we have as human beings to be comforted, encouraged, and treated with respect and love. Isn't it interesting how we can do that with all the folks we work with? All you guys work so hard working with blind kids and blind adults and their families. And we know how to nurture others. It's kind of part of our nature. But for some reason along the way, we forget to do it ourselves. One thing to remember about nurturing in general is that part of it is adding energy into your life. And that's most what we're going to talk about today. So let's start by figuring out what gives you energy and identify some energizers. Okay. So the question in your mind right now should be, am I taking care of myself? And the other one should be, what are you doing to take care of yourself? What gives you energy? We're going to do a little exercise, and you can use the chat room for this exercise. And what I want you to do in the chat room is pretend that I've got a flip chart here. And on this flip chart, I've drawn a big plus sign that divides that flip chart into 4 different quadrants. The first quadrant says 5 minutes. The second says 30 minutes to an hour. The third says 1 hour to a half day. And the fourth says a half day plus. So I want you to think about what kinds of activities you can do in those time limits. We're going to start with the quadrant that says 5 minutes. In the chat room, if you wouldn't mind joining me, list some of the things you can do in 5 minutes that give you energy. And I'll be watching the chat room. Okay, nobody signed in yet. What do you think, folks? You want to hit the chat room at the bottom of your screen. Ah, here we go. Oh, recognizing some of these names. Bonnie, long time. Okay. Okay, Greg says finishing the dishes, pretty important thing. Bonnie says sing and dance to a fun song. Natalie says take a quick walk. Kim says taking a visual break by looking out the window at nature. Kara, push-ups. Dale, 10 squats. Wow, Dale, you do quick squats. Becky, stretches. Read daily devotion, pet the dog. Isn't it amazing what dogs do for us? And for those of you who've been in all this time and you have pets, you know what a boon they are to doing well. So, okay, I love all of those. All right, now let's do the second part. Look at the second quadrant. This is 30 minutes to an hour. List things that you can do in 30 minutes to an hour that give you energy. Anything you want to come up with. Becky says cat nap. Helene says walk. Brenda says walk. Workout for Kim. Bonnie's that what boy, you guys like to walk. You know, after my back surgery, the reason I couldn't do this presentation to begin with, I was undergoing back surgery. And so walking around the block is about my speed these days. Here's a good one, pray, exercise, biking, walking, walk around the block, look at the flowers. That's Jennifer. Weeding, Kim, I love it. Okay, lots of good stuff here. Lots of good stuff you can do in 30 minutes to an hour. Let's take it up a notch. Let's go to that third quadrant. This is an hour to a half day. What can you do in an hour to a half day to get energy? And Diane, I saw that read a chapter in a book. That's really a good 30-minute to an hour activity. Okay, Neva says knit. All right, play a tennis match, Kim says. Elaine says ride my horse. Round of golf, says Vince. Out to lunch. These are good things, you guys. Bicycle ride, shop at a flea market. Oh, Dale, I love that one. That's a fun one. Okay, let's up one more notch. Let's go to a half day plus. What can you do in a half day plus that gives you energy? Okay, make some brownies, Diane says. Go to the beach. Go for a motorcycle ride. Quilt, visit with friends, go on a picnic with family. I notice a lot of friends in here and family. That's another one of those things that I know probably has been tough on some of you with the quarantine and all. It's been hard to see those folks who mean the most to us, other than by doing what we're doing now, Zooming a little bit, which is not a bad deal, is it? Golf, play sports. Okay, folks, that's good. I'm going to go back to our presentation here a little bit now. And so here's the thing to think about. In your day, you have a lot more segments of 5 minutes than you do half day plus. You're going to stay energized to deal with the work day, to deal with those difficult things you have to deal with day in and day out. Then you need to take advantage of those 5 minute things. The 5 minute things are the things that really keep us going. And a lot of the activities I'm going to share with you today are in that 5-minute range. And I'll try to expend as much of this presentation as I can on doing just that and teaching you the different kinds of things that I've used over the years and that others have used. One more thing, a little bit management. And since we're talking about energy and energizers, Price Pritchett wrote a little book on energy management. And in there, he says you've got 3 challenges if you want to maintain energy and stay healthy. He said the first one is to build energy. The things that a lot of you have mentioned here, exercise, anything along those lines, those things give you energy. All of the things you put here on this list are things that help you build energy. Second thing he says, you've got to learn to conserve energy. And what that means is you've got to abandon the behaviors that don't give you much, that don't contribute much. Don't waste your energy on worry. Don't resist change. Got the idea? Conserving energy. One of his suggestions is also to avoid negative people. Sometimes in our careers, that's kind of hard to do. At the same time, you've got to make the best that you can to conserve. And the last thing is probably the hardest choice, folks, that you have to do. And it requires what he calls focus. And he calls it channeling energy. Channeling energy means that we expend our energy on high value items. Some of you remember the story about the professor who came into class one day, and with him he had a gallon jug. And in the gallon jug were a bunch of rocks. It filled it all the way up to the brim. And he turns to the class and he says, folks, is this jar full? And the class said, well, yeah, it's full. And he doesn't say anything, but he reaches underneath the table there and he pulls out a container of gravel. And he pours the gravel into that gallon jar. And the gravel goes in and settles around those big rocks and fills in all the spaces that are available. And he turns back to the class and he says, is the jar full? Well, they're beginning to catch on a little bit now, so they don't say anything. And while they're thinking about it, he pulls another container out from under the table. And this one is full of sand. And he takes the sand and puts it in the jar, and it covers all the area that's not covered by the gravel and the big rocks. And he says, is it full? And of course, they said, no. They finally caught on, right? So he takes out a container of water, and he pours the water in there, and it fills in all the rest of the space. Now, I've seen this done several ways, folks, and I'll tell you the other ways in just a little while. But here's the clincher. You see, the big rocks are our major goals. They're the things that are of the most value to us. The things that are important is that your family, is that your friends, is that some work thing that you're working on that's so important to your career that you really need to get it done. Those are the things you need to expend the most time on. The stuff, unfortunately, that gets us is all that gravel and all that sand and all that other stuff we pour in on top of it. You know, the little things that come in, the memos that arrive at a particular time. The person who comes in and gives us an assignment we didn't think of. The emergency that happens in the office or out on the road. You got the idea. All those things take your time. So the challenge for us all is channeling energy, getting to the big rocks, do the things that have the most value. And with that in mind, let's start talking about energizers, some things we can do to build energy. Oh, by the way, I didn't finish my story there. If you notice, the professor filled that jar at the end with water. Well, in several of the ways I've seen this thing done, one person put in a cup of coffee. And the punchline was there's always room for another cup of coffee. And another guy's poured in 2 cans of beer. And he says, no matter how much you got in your lap, there's always room for a couple of beers. And maybe so. Anyhow, let's talk about energizers. There are 10 I'm going to share with you today, folks. And there are 10 pretty important things that you and I need to think about, ways of energizing, ways of taking care of ourselves, ways to self-nurture. So let's start with number 1. Energizer number 1, take responsibility for your situation. You got to recognize you and I got here one choice at a time. The only way to get someplace else or to move someplace else is to choose our way there. And so we've got to make choices that lead us to better outcomes. So with that in mind, what I want you to do now is, if you've got a piece of paper there, some of you will and some of you don't. It doesn't really matter if you do or not. But what I want you to do is, if you have a piece of paper, write on it something that you're blaming yourself or someone else for. Just write it down on that slip of paper, especially if you're blaming someone else. Write something down there you might be complaining about at work. Write that down on the slip of paper. If you're worrying about something right now, write that down on the slip of paper. Paper could get real full, couldn't it? You don't have to write a whole bunch of this stuff down. Just, it's more that you think about doing it than anything, that you've got those things. So blaming things you blame yourself or someone else for, things you worry about that you can't get off your mind, things you complain about constantly. Okay. So if you've got those written down on your slip of paper, that's okay. If you don't have a slip of paper, just go along and play this game with it. I call it do it or dump it. So what I want you to do now is take that slip of paper and hold it up. Let me find a slip of paper here. Okay. Hold that slip of paper up about eye level, maybe forehead level. Okay. Everybody got that? Everybody got their hand up? Yeah, I think I can see y'all with your hands up. Okay. Here you go. Two choices. This is the first one. What I want you to do is to put that paper, take that piece of paper back, put it down on the table, and write down the first thing you're going to do today or tomorrow to deal with that issue. Or drop it. You see, really, folks, that's the only choices you have. You can either continue to complain, you can continue to blame, you can continue to worry, or you can do something about it, or you can let it go. Because you see, folks, you cannot worry something done. You cannot blame it done. You can't complain it done. You've got to take action. And if you're not taking action, you're doing harm to yourself if you continue to worry. You're taking responsibility from yourself if you blame or complain about somebody else. When you do that, you take all the power away from yourself to do anything about it. So do something about it or drop it. Two other choices I want to share with you. So when you make choices, these are the kind of choices you need to make. The first one is make choices that give you energy. Make choices that give you energy in some way. And the second one is make choices that lead you to the outcomes you want. Back to those big rocks, right? Make choices that lead you somewhere. Okay, let's look at the second energizer. This one is called believe in your own self-worth. It took me a while to learn this. I suspect it took some of you the same thing. You got to remember two things. You don't have to prove your worth. You don't have to overachieve. You are worthy simply because you're a human being and because you think you're worthy. You were made worthy. So because we don't always do this, what I want to do now is give you a chance to give yourself some appreciation. Okay, are you with me so far? Now, you can do it a couple of ways. You need to do this every day. The one way is a verbal hug. A verbal hug is just affirmations, telling yourself things about yourself that at first you may not really believe. My friend Karen Wolf always says, fake it till you make it. Sometimes you need to tell yourself things about yourself that you want to be true. The funny thing is the more you tell yourself those things, the more likely they will become true. That's a verbal hug. That's what I call a verbal hug. But today we're going to do something a little different. It's a self hug. So all I want you to do, those of you who are there with me, okay, wrap your arms around yourself. Okay, give yourself a big squeeze. Believe me, you're worth it. So give yourself a really nice squeeze. If you've ever read Jack Canfield, I ran into when I was writing the book on self-esteem and developing some of the exercises. And he had a lot of things that I borrowed with his permission, of course. But Canfield said the first time he did this, the first time he gave himself a verbal hug, he wasn't talking about this big hug we're giving ourselves now, the squeeze. He said, I love you. And he said it was like the feeling he got the first time he said it to another human being. It kind of sounds weird, doesn't it? At the same time, if we don't love ourselves, who else is going to, right? And you're lovable. You are simply worthwhile, simply because you're a human being. One more squeeze. Okay, good one there. All right. Thanks, folks. Let's move on to principle number 3. Hope you're getting something from all these. Seems like we move pretty fast through these things. I'll slow down a little bit when we get to some things that take a little longer to do. Okay, number 3, talk to yourself. So if I were to ask for a show of hands, how many of you talk to yourselves? I'm guessing almost every hand would go up. But there are probably a few folks out there saying, I don't know. I don't think I talk to myself. Isn't that bad? Could be. Anyway, you got the idea. Reminded me of a joke my friend Franklin told me one time. He said it used to be that if you said you talk to yourself, people thought you were crazy. And then he said later on, it was if you talk to yourself and you answer yourself, then maybe something's wrong with you. And then he said, and now it's if you talk to yourself and you answer yourself, that's okay. But if you argue with yourself, that might be a problem. It's amazing what we what we put on each other, isn't it? Well, I want to give you a talk to yourself formula. And this actually does come from Jack Canfield that I just mentioned. Canfield, by the way, for those of you who don't know him, is an acquaintance. I never really got to know him well. I talked to him on the phone a couple of times. And before he got famous, those of you who do know him, you know that he's made a fortune by writing a bunch of books called the Chicken Soup for the Soul books. And but before he did that, he taught people about self-esteem. And this is his formula. I call it the talk to yourself formula. It's not exactly Jack Canfield, but it's pretty similar. So here's what you do. In the morning, when you get up, you can do this in front of a mirror. You don't really need a mirror to do this. You just need to focus on yourself. And here's what you say. You say, I am, and you fill in the blank with strengths you need for the day or with strengths you want to have. Okay? I'm strong. I'm worthy. I'm capable. I can handle that situation at the office today. I can handle that family I'm working with that sometimes is a little difficult to deal with. I've got everything I need to do to handle those situations. You got the idea? You prepare yourself for the day with positive affirmation. So that's the start of the day. At the end of the day, this may be the most important part because it's the part you and I forget the most. Think of all the things you do during the day. We start the day with a certain amount of energy, I always think. And it's never the same because how much energy you start the day with depends on, it depends on what's going on at home. If you're having difficulty with a family member, if you're worrying about money, you got the idea. Some of those things rob you of that energy. And so you come to work with a little less energy than you usually have. If traffic's really bad, that may take a little more energy from you. So when you get to work, you may have a little less than you need to, and that makes you a little short sometimes with people. The thing to do, again, is energizers throughout the day. Talk to yourself, affirmations, do some breathing. We're going to do some more stuff in just a while. I'll show you that are really important things to do. In the evening, this is what you need to do. I talked all around this, didn't I? Just before you go to sleep, say, I appreciate you for the following things you accomplished today. This is the thing we rarely do. We can go for days sometimes without thinking we've done anything much, when the reality is we dealt with all kinds of organizational issues, all kinds of personal issues, some really important, some not so important, but you accomplished every day more than you think. And if at the end of the day you tell yourself you appreciate yourself for what you accomplished, it gives you a better feeling of who you are, how much you've done, and how well you're using that energy. Okay, let's look at number 4. Okay, Energizer number 4. I love this one, and I'm not very good at it. I don't know about you guys. Learn to say no. Now, of course, you know that if you said no all the time, you probably wouldn't have a job, right? The trick is knowing when to say no, knowing that that there are reasons sometimes you need to say no, because folks like my friend Mary Nell and others would be taking on the world if they didn't say no once in a while, because they have this ultimate energy to do everything. So ask yourself 2 questions before you say yes to the next project or to the next person. Number 1, this may be the most important one. Do I want to do this? If it's important to your job and it's going to cost your job, you may not have a lot of say in that. But number 1, do I want to do this? Number 2, do I have the time and energy to take on something else? Also important. So 2 questions. Do I have the energy to take on something else? Do I want to do it? Good strategy, folks, to think about. But every one of us, and each of you know your limits better than any of the rest of us. The answer to this is always say no when to say yes would overextend your personal resources. If it's that way every day at work, forgive me for saying this, but it might be time to find another form of work. So one more time, always say no when to say yes would overextend your personal resources. I wrote an article about this some years ago, and the editor picked up on it, and she wrote something that I thought was just inspired. She said, think of it as saying yes to the most important person in your life, you. And she had encapsulated in one sentence there exactly what I was trying to say. So learn to say no. Think of it as saying yes to the most important person in your life, you. Okay, next one is something, this is number 5, Energizer. Okay, develop detached concern. And this is a term that I learned back in counseling school. You know what I mean? Detached concern means that I can care about somebody. I can discuss their problems and their responsibilities, and I can help them work with those without taking them on myself. I always tell people about a rehab teacher I used to work with. And what Ann would do every time she learned about a new visual anomaly, all of a sudden she'd start displaying it. And some of the rest of us do this same thing. You know what I mean? So detached concern means caring about somebody without taking on their stuff. I'll be honest, this takes practice. But if you go home every night and all you can do is think about what was happening with you during the day, with somebody else during the day and worrying about them, then folks, you're not there yet. If we keep taking on their stuff, if we do things for them, in the long run, what we do is harm them because we impede their coping ability. People have to deal with rough stuff sometimes in order to learn how to cope, in order to do things on their own. I think most of you know that if you've been in this field for a while. Okay, let's go ahead and go to number 6. Number 6 is create a personal nurturing space. I used to do a lot of type development workshops. And in those type development workshops, we looked at how different types handle stress. And we looked at how they arrange their work environment to make it conducive, not only to work, but also to be reassuring. So think about what you keep in your environment that reassures you. If you're a go-getter, a management type person, that might be trophies or things that you keep in your room. It might be awards that you've achieved over the years. If you're a more social person, it probably is going to be pictures of the people that are most important in your life. If you're an extremely work-oriented person and with attention to detail, then it might be keeping the things that are most important to your job there around you. So just write quickly in the chat room. I'd like to be interested in things that you keep in your environment, your personal nurturing space that energize you. So anybody want to come into the chat room with something along those lines? And I'll be watching, I promise. Okay, Megan says she has pictures of her kids and flowers. Oh, I love that. Plants are so energizing. Mary Nell keeps us slinky. Mary Nell and I share a lot of things in common. One is we like to keep a lot of toys in our environment. My friend Marilyn, I wish you guys could have met her. One of the most incredible counselors I ever met, was able to deal with that detached concern. And part of the way she dealt with it is it was her work environment. She kept things right there that she used in those 5-minute periods. Wind-up toys was hers. That's what she used. Kim says she keeps colored pencils handy. Diane says, everything I need in its own place and very neat workspace. There's somebody who's attentive to work, who understands that what she needs to get the work done, helps that energizes her on her own. Linda says pictures of her kids, drawings from students. I bet a lot of you keep drawings from students around. Landscape posters. Think about your environment, folks. Some of us work in cubicles. It's not as easy to do this in cubicles, but in your cubicle, you can put stuff that energizes you. What could you keep there that would help you out? Some of my friends keep songs, and when they've got 5 minutes of their own, they use it to listen to a favorite song, usually some type of motivational song. Or if you're a metalhead, well, it might be a really good rock and roll song. But music, artwork, some people keep poems that are particularly enthusing. Workspace. Think about your work environment. Okay, gang. Thank you. I appreciate everything you put there. All good things. I missed this one. Thanks, Jennifer. A rainbow beanie baby and a full chocolate jar. Almost always when we do that exercise up front where we talk about energizers, people put food in there. And food to an extent is good, but it's like we always say, right? Everything in moderation. So be careful about putting too much sugar. If you know anything about sugar, you know that 30 minutes after you consume it, you have a crash. And that's not necessarily good. It makes you less productive instead of more productive. Okay, let's go to one of my favorite energizers here. Number 7, come to your senses. Are most of you in your right minds? Well, unless if you're left-handed, you're definitely in your right mind. If you're right-handed, you're definitely in your left mind, right? But anyhow, when I say come to your senses, there's so much healing in sensory things. I learned about this in an odd way. I had a friend at work, and the way she energized herself was when it came break time, she got out of the building, folks. She left the building, and luckily we were in an area that had some greenery around it, and so she would walk around the building and observe. She wouldn't talk to anybody. She'd just walk and take in whatever she was looking at: the trees, the shells, when she saw shells, the stones. Sometimes she would watch the birds, whatever was there. When she came back to work, she had a renewed energy because she had left the work environment and put it all behind her. I want you to take yourself back to the time when you were 5 years old, if you can get there. 5 years old, what did we need to entertain ourselves, to energize ourselves? Do you remember? Remember how much fun we had with a big cardboard box? Didn't have a whole lot of internet in those days or video games. A few marbles did it. Sometimes an ant bed, just watching the ants, or butterflies. Where I lived, Even where I live now, we still have lots of fireflies. We'd catch fireflies in a jar. Mud, you remember how much mud? Now, I'm not suggesting that you catch fireflies at work or that you play in the mud, but what you do need to do is do something that's energizing, okay? Something that gives you energy. And I'm going to teach you something right now that's a little different. When I do this in person, I divide folks into two, and we do a two-person massage. And since most of us, or most of you are probably watching this on your own, I guess we could reach into the monitor somehow and need some of the switches. That might help, right? But I'm going to teach you a one-person massage. So we're going to do a one-person massage now. And I'll teach you two different varieties. The first is from the front. Now, from the front is kneading. There's a muscle that runs across your shoulder. Can all of you feel that muscle? It's just a kind of a fat little muscle right there across the top. And you want to knead that muscle with your hand a little bit, okay? And by kneading, the joke is everybody needs somebody. And in this case, we need ourselves. How good is that? Okay. All right, so you knead it. Now here's the trick with kneading. Don't use your thumb. Forget you have a thumb, okay? Take your fingers on the front part of that muscle, or the back part of the muscle in this case, and the heel of your hand on the front part, okay? The reason you do that to knead a muscle is this. When you put the thumb on one side and the fingers on the other side, you're creating unequal pressure, and sometimes that can cause the muscle to crack, to cramp, and cause more problems than not. So what you want to do is knead it. And by kneading it, you use the four fingers on one side of the muscle and the heel of your hand on the other. Everybody got the idea? Okay. Gee, I feel better already. Okay, now I want to show you another type of massage. And this one is, and again, we're into the sensual. That's why I'm sticking with this massage stuff. This is one that you do the back of your neck. And I'm going to turn around so that you can see this, but I'll explain it before I do that. So what we're going to do is put our hands on the crown of our head, and your thumbs, I told you the thumbs that you forgot about, we're going to use the thumbs this time. We're going to do thumb circles. And you do that by putting the thumb on top of the muscle and moving it around in a circle. Gee, complex, huh? So anyhow, before we do this, find at the base of your head and back, the base of your skull, you'll find a muscle that attaches to the skull and back there, the occipital lobe or occipital part of your skull. Everybody find that muscle back there? Okay, I've done lots of reading on this, and this is the source of about 90% of headaches, some sources say. That may be a little high, but a lot of headaches originate in this part of your neck. For some reason or other, we carry lots of stress in our shoulders and our neck. So in just a second, I'm going to turn around and show you how to do thumb circles with this thing. I hope you can still hear me okay. Okay. I'm assuming you all can still see me and hear me. So what I've got is I've got my hands on the crown of my head up here, and I've got my thumbs draped down, touching that muscle at the base of the skull. Okay. Now I'm putting my thumb on each side of that muscle, and I'm doing thumb circles. So all I'm doing is pressing in and moving that thumb around in a circle. And what I'm going to do is primarily stay at the base of the neck, but eventually what I'm going to do is work all the way down that muscle to where it joins the shoulders. And my thumbs will disappear into my collar in just a while. You won't see them, but just know that they're working their way down that muscle. Just remember, the source of the headache is right here at the base of the skull. So the most massage you want to do is with thumb circles right there on that muscle where it attaches to the base of the skull. Okay. I don't know about you guys, but I feel a lot better already. So, okay. So easy massage things. I learned these from a massage therapist. The technique is simple. And I'll be honest, when I was working full time, I'm a retired person now. You guys probably figured out I do tours as an avocation, but I did this a lot because what happens, I don't know if you're like me, but you get to a point in the day and you realize that your shoulders are somewhere up close to your ears because you're bunching the muscles up in your shoulders, and your shoulders get higher and higher and higher. Okay. So what you're doing is putting a lot of pressure on those shoulders, both in your neck and the shoulders themselves. What that massage does is it loosens up the muscles in the neck, and the massage from the front where you need the muscle loosens up the muscle in the front. Okay. All right. And I will answer questions about this later on if you like. We're going to have some question and answer time at the end of the presentation. But before I leave this, I want to read you something. I had a friend who was the president of AER before me. Her name was Peggy Madeira. I have trouble mentioning her name without getting choked up, folks. Peggy she was just phenomenal. I don't know how to describe it exactly. She was just one of the most amazing human beings I ever met. One of those folks who had caring built into their system. You know who kind of person I'm talking about? That was Peggy. And when we had board meetings, Peggy always had something that would liven the place up, and loosen everybody up. And she knows I like to write poetry. And so one day she came in and she said, "Billy, I challenge you to a poetry write-off. And so this evening, I want you to write a poem, bring it back, and we'll read our poems and see who wins." And that sounds very competitive. And there wasn't much of that in Peggy, really. It was show me the real you, show me the good stuff you got. And this is what came of that. And it's called Wonderful. Let me read it to you. This is the one I wrote. Like bluebonnets on an April hillside, are raindrops on the tips of leaves, like a child's grin from under a hat brim, or a summer day's unexpected breeze, like laughter on a crowded sidewalk, or chocolate lingering on the tongue, like bird song announcing another daybreak, or mountains gleaming with the sun, like first love's anxious tingling moments, or the wet warmth of a loved one's kiss, like basking in friendship's adoration, or reuniting with the ones we've missed. Every single day, we're surrounded by beauty, even when our worlds seem about to break up. If we focus our senses, there is natural healing. But to greet the new dawn, we've got to wake up. I owe Peggy that, because without her, it might never have come forth. Okay. Now, before I do break up, let's go ahead and get to our next Energizer. This is number 8. And this is one that I think a lot of you do very well. Laugh and learn. If you hadn't figured out already, I love to laugh. I love funny things. I love cartoons. It took me a long time to realize that different people, because of our personalities, we're different in what we think is funny, and we laugh at different things. So that was a struggle for me as a presenter to come up with an activity that might make everybody laugh, since this is what I'm talking about. Now, Mary Nell, speaking of Mary Nell, she's good at that, but me, I had to work with this. So the thing about laughing is if you laugh real hard, it releases dolphins. You know, and these dolphins swim all over your brain, and they bring all kinds of, endorphins. So maybe it isn't dolphins. But what you do know is that laughing strengthens your immune system. Years ago, I read a book called Anatomy of an Illness by a fellow named Norman Cousins. Norman Cousins believed that laughing healed him. He was diagnosed with an incurable disease and told that he only had a few months to live. Well, Norman Cousins had a bunch of friends at that time, and one of them was a fella, the fella, God, why is his name escaping me now? The guy who did Laugh In. And so he talked to the Laugh In guy. Why am I going blank? Sorry, folks. And he said, "Can you send me some films of the old Laugh In episodes?" And so he started laughing, and then he got energy from that. And from then on, he started looking at different things, Laurel and Hardy, and whatever actually made him laugh, old Lucy and Desi sitcoms and so on. Well, Norman Cousins lived, 30 years longer. He says in his book that he literally laughed himself to health, that they only thought he was going to die, that the laughing is what saved him. And I can tell you right now that laughing changes everything. You need to laugh every day. So with that in mind, let's do something now, see if I can make you laugh. And I'm not going to be able to hear you. So you're just going to have to laugh there by yourself. I don't know what to tell you. So the first thing is an easy thing. So I put my hand on top of my head. Okay. And then I'm going to bring my fingers down and pull my nose up. And then I'm going to stick my tongue out at you. Now, see, you didn't expect to see that today, did you? Okay. If you didn't laugh, well, shoot. Okay, let's try something else. Okay. Everybody can do this one. This one I want you to do with me. And by the way, when I do this live, we do the monkey face. I have everybody look at each other. And if they weren't laughing before, boy, it does it right, right there. We all break up. Okay, but here's what I want you to do. I want you to take your index finger, your pointer, and I want you to put it above your lip, right underneath your nose. Okay, everybody got it there? That's good. Yeah, you're holding it just right. Gee, I wish I could see you doing this. Okay, everybody got your finger in place. Okay, here's what I want you to do. You just rub your finger up and down across your lips, right? Now, for some of you, that's the most intelligent thing you're going to hear today. And I bet there have been days at work when it was probably the most intelligent thing you heard. But if you want to spring, what's the word? If you want to get a sense of humor or bring it back after you come from what's the word? A very difficult meeting, you know the ones, or after somebody yells at you, or you're just really downhearted at the end of the day, do this. You know, it can help if you're looking in the mirror. If you do it with too many people around you, they may have other thoughts, but don't forget to, it's good for you. Okay. Easy lesson, right? Laugh and learn. Whatever makes you laugh, you need to keep that handy. Some of those things in your environment you need to keep there. Could be joke books, folks. It could be particular cartoons. Some of you like Far Side. Some of you like Calvin and Hobbes. Some of you like Snoopy. What are some of the others? Whatever, Garfield, whatever floats your boat, folks, that's what you want. I know I'm hopelessly out of date, folks. What can I tell you? Cartoons, funny little sayings, jokes, whatever makes you laugh. Would you use your 5 minutes during the day? You could phone up a friend that makes you laugh, or you could phone up a friend who likes you to make them laugh. Always a good use of your time. Good way to energize. Okay, moving on to number 9 here, another really important one, folks. This one I call allow yourself quiet time. When I'm talking about quiet time here, I'm talking about more than sitting quietly. I'm talking about meditational responses and relaxation responses. And when I first started training people in stress management, it was back in the mid-70s, believe it or not, folks. I didn't know a lot about meditation at all, had never really done any of the approaches. And so when I started to study it and read the books and different kinds of things, I found some things that were very helpful. And the first one I want to share is probably the best resource if you've never meditated before, or even if you have, and you want a simple approach that you could do anywhere. And takes from 5 to 10 minutes. It does not have to be long. The book is called Herbert Benson's Relaxation Response. Relaxation Response by Herbert Benson. One of the best books I ever read on relaxation. He says you need 4 things in order to do a meditational response or relax. The first thing is a quiet room. And I agree with this, folks, especially when you start out. But honestly, I have used this approach in bowling alleys. That tells you how effective it can be. And airports, another place. A quiet room. The second thing is a comfortable position. This is the most important concern. A comfortable position could be lying down, it could be sitting, it could be standing, depending on who you are and what actually gives you comfort. The third thing is a passive attitude. If you've ever read Carlos Castaneda in books, he talks about meditation, and he says, let your thoughts be like clouds that just go through your mind. A passive attitude is that when things come to your mind when you're meditating, let them pass on through your mind. Don't try to deal with them. They're going to come. You're going to think of things when you meditate. Honestly, they're just not going to go away. But if you don't immediately engage them, if you let them go on through your mind like clouds, that's what a passive attitude is. And the fourth thing is a mental device. Now, Benson was trying to stay away from the religious overtones of Zen Buddhism and other things. In Buddhism, they use a mental device called You've probably seen that. Some people like to tell jokes about it. Ray Stevens even wrote a joke tune about it. But well, Herbert Benson used the number 1. Now you can perceive 1 however you want to see it, either as a number or as the word ONE drifting off into space. So you got it. You're in a quiet room. You're in a comfortable position. You have a passive attitude. It is not necessary to close your eyes, although most people do. But you sit there, the mental device 1. So first you become conscious of your breathing as it comes in. Most people use a 5 count. You breathe in for 5 counts. You hold it for 5 counts. You breathe out for 5 counts. So as you get your breathing pattern going, and it's not real deep breaths. You don't want to, what's the word? Hyperventilate here. Just a good breath, hold it, let it out. You don't have to count to 5. It'll become kind of natural as you do it. As you've got that, when you let the breath out, see 1 kind of trailing off into oblivion. So inhale, exhale, see 1 going off out into the sunset. Inhale, hold it, exhale, see 1. And I won't spend a lot of time with you on this in a classroom. We usually do this when I'm teaching just meditation. We do this about 10 minutes. If you like music, I can recommend music too. It's another part of a mental device. There's a fellow named Stephen Halpern, who's a West Coast musician, who was one of the early electronic musicians, who has some incredible CDs. One of them is called Zodiac Suite. That's one of my favorites. Trying to think of some of the others. Stephen Halpern, Halpern. If you see his things, it's wonderful, wonderful music to meditate to. It's one of those things I used to always keep in my environment, keep one handy so that I could listen to it. Sometimes just listening to Halpern puts you into a meditative state. It's just very easy. Information it is easy music, an easy mental device to use. Okay, that's a more lengthy thing. Herbert, if you really want to get into this, if you really want to score some good results from meditation, I strongly recommend Benson's book, Relaxation Response. You can pretty much find it anywhere. In fact, you can get it pretty cheaply on Amazon these days. Okay, then you might not have that long. So there was a guy named Charles Strobel. Charles Strobel developed something he called the quieting reflex. The quieting reflex only takes 7 seconds. Everybody's got 7 seconds, right? And Strobel said this was really good for those situations where you're out on the freeway and somebody pulls in front of you and you screech to a halt, or somebody comes in your office and yells at you and then storms out. And you know the kind of shape you're in when that happens. Wherever you are, if something traumatic happens, it leaves something with you. Your body is stressed out. Your breathing pattern is disturbed. Your blood pressure is high. Okay. So Strobel's quieting reflex is a way to deal with that immediately. It's not going to heal anything, but it's going to help you calm down immediately. So here's how the quieting reflex works. Because you know something's going to happen to you sooner or later, that truck pulling out in front of you, whatever, something just completely unexpected, like, like that. You see what I mean? Anything could happen. Now, here's the 7-second method. Do this with me. Take a deep breath. Let it out. Say, mouth smile. Eyes sparkle. Mind alert, amused. Body calm. Take another deep breath. Let it out. Feel a wave of warmth starting at the crown of your head all the way down to your toes. Let's do that one more time. Take a deep breath. Let it out. Some self-suggestion. Mouth smile. Mouth smile. Eyes sparkle. Mind alert, amused. Body calm. Take another deep breath. Wave of warmth from the crown of your head all the way to your toes. That's Strobel's quieting reflex. I've got to tell you a quick story about this. In one of my early trainings, when I was training this stuff, there was a guy in the training, a career military, a lieutenant colonel in the Air Force. And Bud was just, he was not who you thought he was. He loved jokes. He was just a neat man, but he was all work, you know. He was workaholic number one. That was Bud. He was all seriousness. And so he was in that thing, and I could tell that he wasn't really enthused about it. The next morning he comes in and he says, Brookshire, you know that quieting thing you taught us? I said, yeah, Bud, I remember. And he says, well, I didn't tell you this, but after the training yesterday, I had to go to do my physical, you know, for the military. And he said, I want you to know, first off, I think this is all a bunch of BS. You know, I don't think this does anything for everybody. But he said, I got to tell you this. I took that physical. My blood pressure is the lowest it's been in several years. It works, folks. If you calm your body, if you get into relaxation, it does really good things for you. The more elongated approach I do is a combination of Herbert Benson's relaxation response. It's progressive relaxation and it's deep breathing. And I put these all together into about a 10 to 15 minute kind of meditation you can do. You don't need that. You do, if you really want to get into this, Herbert Benson's relaxation response is a good way to go. Strobel's quieting reflex works even if you're not met with something that really revs you up. Anytime during the day, if you're beginning to worry, if something troubles you a little bit, stop. Take a deep breath, mouth smile, eyes sparkle, mind alert, amused, body calm. Good approach. Okay. Well, folks, we've made better time here than I thought, so we're getting close to the end. And I'll be glad to answer any questions you've got. So number 10, let's go to number 10. Celebrate yourself and your accomplishments every day. Have you noticed that people are really busy? That sometimes the only one who knows you've been doing a good job is, well, that's funny, and it's you. You're the only one. So if anybody's going to tell you you've done a good job, it's got to be you. You remember that little talk to yourself thing we learned earlier in these energizers, where at the end of the day, you tell yourself, you reiterate the accomplishments that you've made during the day and celebrate yourself. You've got to do this on an ongoing basis. The world, my friend, is a very busy place. Your supervisors are very busy. The consumers and the kids you work with are busy. They're not always going to notice what good work you do. So don't wait for somebody else to celebrate your accomplishments. You've got to do it yourself. Now, what I want you to do, first of all, we're going to do a couple of things. And these are real easy things to do. Here's the first one. Okay, reach over your back and pat yourself. Boy, you did a good job today. I'm so proud of you. I hope you do the same thing tomorrow. What am I saying? I know you'll do the same tomorrow. Okay, got the idea? If nobody else is there to pat your back, you can pat yourself. Something else you need to notice is that if you do this for other people, it's a whole lot more likely to come your direction. So the people who work with you very closely, celebrate them as well. Give them back pats. Tell them what good work they do. Show them what good work they do. Show them that you appreciate them, and it'll come back in kind, folks. There's an animal in nature. I'm going to go off on a tangent now. Please bear with me. That I think celebrates themselves really well. And so what I want us to do is to emulate that animal today. And you know the one I'm talking about. It's a wolf. You know, when a wolf is having a really good day, when things are going really good, they get up on the top of the mountain and they let out a really long howl. And that howl is just a really delightful thing. But we've got the wolves in us, right? We've got that part of us in there that needs to celebrate. So we're going to celebrate right now with the wolf howl. I don't know if you can hear my dog. It sounds like she's already joined in the background out there. But with Ava, it's more barks than howls. So we're going to do a howl. No telling what this will do to Ava. I hope not too bad. So at any rate, are you ready with me? Okay. So here's what you do. In order to do a really good wolf howl, you've got to sit up really straight. Standing up probably works the best. You got to put your head back. Okay. And you've got to feel that howl starting all the way down at your toes, coming out of your body and force itself out through your mouth. Okay. Are you with me? Everybody got that? That's a good wolf howl. So here we go. Okay. On three, we're going to howl. Everybody at the same time. I want to be able to hear you from wherever you are. 1, 2, 3. I think I heard some of you. Let's do it again. Okay. Okay, that's a good wolf howl. Now, if you do that work too much, people may come looking for you. And if you did it really right this time, you're probably going to have to go and reclaim the cats from under the couch, but it's a good thing to do. Maybe you need a little more solace to do a good wolf howl. Regardless of whether you can wolf howl or back pat, you need to celebrate yourself every day. Don't forget that. So that brings me to this part, folks. And just some closing thoughts. Three things. You've got to learn to enjoy yourself while you work. If it's all drudgery for you, it's like I say, you need to be looking for something else. Learn to enjoy yourself. That means keeping your environment a place that you like to come back to, that's enticing to you. That means celebrating those people around you. That means laughing whenever you get a chance. It means realizing that you are worthy and that the responsibility for taking care of your situation and doing what needs to be done is yours. All these things. Learn to care for yourself. So learn to enjoy yourself while you work. Number 2, choose to care for your needs. If you have needs, you need to take care of them. I can't tell you how many folks I worked with over the years who really didn't do that. Well, I've been there myself where I didn't. I was so into my work and so busy, I didn't pay attention to what was going on with my body and sometimes with my family. And the third thing is take time to re-energize regularly. Take responsibility for those 5 minutes you have there, all those 5 minutes. And in those 5 minutes, listen to a favorite song, read a joke, read your favorite cartoon, read a favorite poem. Look at those pictures you've got on the desk of those people that you really love, or the times that happened where you really thought you were at your best. Now, where you really were at your best, or you wouldn't have them on your desk there. Excuse me. So here's what I want you to do. Think about those times. I want you to think about all the good you do every day. And I know you do. I've seen what you do. You work hard. You make a big difference in the lives of kids and the lives of adults, in families. You have no idea how much I admire you, how much you really are my heroes. So here's what I want you to do with me. This is a virtual high five. Wherever you are, put that hand up and slap it my direction. Good work, folks. You make a difference. And 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 you make a difference. Every single one of you. Here's my 2 closing things to leave with you. The first one is this. Lois Levy's Undress Your Stress. I see we've already got the quote up. That's okay. Lois Levy's Undress Your Stress is a book you need to get. And what we're going to do, I information mapped this book some time ago. We're going to send you my information map of Lois Levy's book. What Levy did in this little book called Undress Your Stress was list bukus. I have no idea how many different kinds of exercises and ideas and hints she puts in there to helping deal with stress. But there are things that help you as an individual to grow as an individual as well as to deal with your stress. Strongly recommended. And once you read some of the things that in my information map version, you'll see what I'm talking about. Okay, and let's look at that quote right quick. This is our close. This is from Pico Iyer. He says it in his book, The Art of Stillness. It is precisely those who are busiest who most need to give themselves a break. So folks, that's the title of our presentation. Take care of yourselves. Give yourself a break. If you don't take care of yourself, you'll become incapable of dealing or working or doing anything for anybody else. So by taking care of yourself, you really are helping everybody you work with. And folks, I think that's all I've got. And I'm going to turn it back over to Holly now. We will have some room for question and answers. So by all means, stay with us.
Well, Billy, thank you so much. That was amazing. That really was the best 90 minutes I've spent in a long, long time. Thank you so, so, so much. I absolutely loved learning about comfortable minutes, and I will definitely be using the 5-minute relaxation techniques through my day. Those were amazing. Thank you so, so, so much. I'd like to stress that Billy's resources and handouts will be in the Dropbox, so you can all refer to them later. Billy, I also really don't want this session to end. I feel like I could sit here forever. I feel more relaxed than I have in a very long time. If it's okay with you, how about if we just go right into the open mic right now? Would that be okay with you?
That's perfect, Holly.
Billy, I'm gonna stop at this moment just so that we can wrap it up, give some people the code in case they're ready. It's a little bit after 6, so just in case they're needing to go. I'm sure nobody wants to go, but in case they're needing to go somewhere else. But I can give the code and we'll run the credits and everything, and then people can stay on if they would like to, if that is okay with you.
That's perfect, Holly.
Okay.
Let's go for it.
Okay, thank you again so much. I really, really can't thank you enough. This was absolutely fantastic. So, so helpful for me, and I'm sure for so many others. So thank you so much. Thank you to all of you for your participation. We hope you enjoyed this session and the suggestions about taking time for yourselves. We hope these have been beneficial for you. Thank you to the Penn AER Board of Directors for your support. Thank you so much for everyone who's been working on the Leadership Development Committee. So much tireless work that they've all been doing. And for the planners that have put the thought and work into this session and the entire series. And it started out as just an idea. We thought we could do it, and they worked so hard to make all of this happen. So thank you all very much. I'd also like to thank our wonderful AV team for all of their support and assistance with the production of the session. I would like to extend my gratitude to the Communications Committee, who has provided assistance with promotions and accessibility assistance. There are so many people have been working tirelessly for this session, as well as I said, the entire leadership session, and their names will all be listed on the slides. You should receive an email shortly after this session that includes the link to the Dropbox folder for the resources from the session, instructions to request a certificate of attendance, and a session evaluation. Please visit our website at penn.aer.org to stay informed of Penn.aer activities and information updates. The closing code for today's session is RELAX, RELAX, relax. Okay, go ahead and roll the credits.
Thank you for joining us. Stay well and take charge of your own well-being. Taking charge. Restore, refresh, renew. Pendel AER expresses deep appreciation to our guest presenters for their ideas, insights, and generosity. Maria Lepore Stevens, Billy Brookshire, Marine Army, thanks for being on our team. This webinar was provided by the Pendel chapter of AER as part of our annual Leadership Development Series. Series Development Team, Chair and Producer Mary Nell McLennan, Co-Producer Vince McVeigh, Content and Talent Team, Carrie Leaders, Mary Nell McLennan, Vince McVeigh, Holly Russell, Aaron Weaver, Tracy Whitehead, Technical Production Team, Rebecca Knobb, Greg Leisure, Doug Williams, Registration and Communication Team, Brenda Egan, Pauline Morano, Publicity and Promotion Team, Nancy Ashley, Dale Cohen, Marcy Grayboys, Holly Russell, Resource Kits Team, Dale Cohen, Holly Russell, Tracy Whitehead, CEU Certificates, Aaron Weaver. Be on the lookout for your resource kit. Immediately following this webinar, Pendel will email you a Dropbox link to a resource kit of activities and resources that support these self-care practices for you to use and for you to share with your students and clients. This webinar has been approved by ACVREP. To request a certificate of participation, email the following information to hmaro@obs.org within 7 days of this webinar. That email address is hmarano@obs.org. Please email your name, the email address to which the certificate should be sent, your name as it shows up on the Zoom for this event, the code and date for the event for which you request a certificate. Pendel AER thanks our techies, Greg Leisure, Doug Williams,